The Melbourne Grand Prix opens the international season, but the Australian race may just be reaching the finish line.
But Raikkonen has the lead and Alonso...
This is a carnival here. This is a motorsport carnival, not just a Formula One race.
Time will tell. We're not willing to secure it at any price.
It doesn't generate any business for us. It actually causes us probably more problems than it's worth.
Probably the time for the Grand Prix has now passed.
To assess the success of the Grand Prix, you have to go back more than a decade. Victoria had been battered by recession. Melbourne was the poor kid on the continental bloc.
People's expectations of the government were sliding very fast. There was a debt here of some $35 billion.
The state was on its knees and it was part of the revitalisation of Victoria.
From a tourist point of view, Melbourne wasn't blessed with a stunning harbour or barrier reef, so an impressive plan was hatched to bring Melbourne back.
The tragedy is there is only one Ron Walker. What we need is 50.
10 years later, major events are to Victoria what the resources boom is to the west. The question is, has Melbourne now outgrown the financial burden of the Grand Prix? When we have a look at the Melbourne Grand Prix, is this the best way that the Victorian government can be spending our taxes?
No. Usually the best way to spend taxpayers' money is to give the money back to the taxpayers. The question about governments funding major events is a highly arguable way of spending money. There are better ways to spend the money that we're spending on the Grand Prix right now.
The race cost Victorian taxpayers $34 million last year. That's double what it cost in 2005.
You know, once you get up to 80 million, I've said publicly, once you get up around that figure, then it's not the sort of thing that fits in terms of our major event strategy.
I think the $80 million was perhaps the wrong figure, with great respect. I mean, we will lose about $40 million this year, so I don't know where the $80 million came from.
Ron Walker and the government have always argued the race generates economic activity. A highly criticised report in 2005 claimed the overall benefits of the Grand Prix totalled $175 million a year. But business owners located right next to the Albert Park track say the reality appears lost in translation. How much money do you see of that $175 million?
Zero. We generally don't see anything. There's no increase in trade for us. It's just the way that it's designed. The circuit's certainly fairly central, but people drive by. They don't come here. They go back to town, or there's no incentive for them to hang around in the areas.
If the Melbourne Grand Prix comes to an end, it probably won't be from pressure from media groups and lobby groups, but rather from the Grand Prix Supremo himself, Bernie Ecclestone. He wants the Melbourne race to become a nighttime race, better for European television viewers, and that would cost Victorian taxpayers $34 million. There's also other questions about Melbourne special events and whether they push those European and American viewers onto planes to become fee-paying tourists. Do you think the Grand Prix risks losing its grassroots support base if it gives in to its financial backers and the emirs of Qatar or wherever who say they'll put it on wherever, whenever, for whatever price?
Look, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, once you lose the physical support base for motor racing and turn it into a television sport, even though there's a lot more money in terms of television revenue, I think you take away a lot from motor racing and indeed MotoGP. It's all very well to hold a MotoGP at 2 a.m. in the morning in Qatar, but there are no spectators. It's just a television race.
The Melbourne Grand Prix is the biggest corporate event in the world, but like everything corporate, the bottom line could bring down the checkered flag for the last time. Ahron Young, Sky News Business Channel, Melbourne.